Before it ever shows up on the scoreboard, Chargers fans can feel it. This team is standing at a real emotional turning point. Tuli Tuipulotu might be the next huge contract on defense. Biadasz is here as a direct answer for protecting Justin Herbert. The dream season picture has Harbaugh, McDaniel, Slater, and Alt right in the middle of the AFC West battle. And there is still a door cracked open for Keenan Allen. Subscribe right now because today we are talking about a Chargers team that is finally done waiting. Now let's get into Tuli, because I can't treat this like a dry front office note. The Chargers saved money, avoided tossing contracts around for offseason headlines, went through free agency without panic, rebuilt the offensive line, added depth, came out of the draft with Akeem Messidor and Jake Slaughter, and did what serious organizations do. They got the house in order before staring down the biggest bill. And that bill has a name. It has pressure. It has 13 sacks from last season. Tuli Tuipulotu. Daniel Popper from The Athletic put the dilemma in pretty simple terms. You either extend him now, while his value is high after the best season of his career, or you wait through 2026 and accept the risk of that number climbing even higher. And for me, defending this team with everything I've got, the answer is not that complicated. Pay him now. Take care of it now. Get that cloud out now. Because what Tuli did in 2025 was not just a stack of pretty numbers for an agent to carry into a meeting. He put up 13 sacks, 49 combined tackles, and 20 tackles for loss in 16 games. That is real presence. That is an offense changing its protection plan. That is a coordinator waking up on Tuesday already thinking about chips, slides, tight end help, and how to keep his quarterback upright. The Chargers spent way too much time searching for defenders who could change the temperature of a game. Now they found one. So what? They're supposed to mess around and hope he gives them a discount? Popper projected around $32 million to $34 million per year, and the market shows why that is not wild. Odafe Owe got $24 million per year after 7.5 sacks. Jalen Phillips, even with 5 sacks and a strong reputation against the run, got to $30 million per year. So if Tuli lands a little above that range, that is not an overpay. It is the price of keeping a young star before he pushes you into panic pricing. And here is the other part that hits. 2026 could push everything even higher. Khalil Mack can still ruin a game, but age is part of the conversation now. Messidor has talent, but he still has to prove exactly what he is as a pure NFL pass rusher. If Tuli becomes the clear engine of that front, if he repeats that production or takes another jump, the market stops being friendly fast. The Chargers save space for this. Derwin James is part of that math too. Joe Alt is coming right after. But right now, the financial window gives Los Angeles a chance to move with strength instead of fear. Don't overthink this. Tuiplotu is a face of the next defensive era in Los Angeles. Sign him, let him play loose, and let the quarterbacks in this division feel the cost. And when the conversation turns from defense to the offensive line, I get more fired up, because every Chargers fan knows that feeling of watching Justin Herbert make miracles while the pocket caves in like it's normal. Enough. Not with this quarterback. Not now in his career. Not with Mike McDaniel coming in to build an offense that depends on timing, angles, movement, and clean execution. That is why the Biadasz signing cannot be treated like another transaction. Bradley Bozeman was the lowest graded qualifying center in the NFL in 2025 by Pro Football Focus, with a 51.5 overall grade, dead last among 40 players. And the Chargers' offensive line allowed 54 sacks, the third worst total in the league. That is not small. That is an open wound in the middle of the offensive identity. The team wanted to run it better, protect better, and control games better. But too often it felt like they were trying to build a house while the floor was shaking. Now comes Biadasz. 3 years, $30 million, coming over from Washington, with a 70.7 overall PFF grade, 11th best among centers, plus a 71.2 run blocking grade. ESPN's Bill Barnwell called it the Chargers' best move of the offseason, and I get it, because this is not about replacing a weak spot with a functional one. This is about giving Herbert a brain in the middle of the line. Jim Harbaugh said Biadasz is a player who thinks like a coach, and that matters. Center is not just about power. Center is identification, communication, adjustment. It is sensing pressure before it turns into a hit on your quarterback. And with McDaniel in Los Angeles, the athletic part matters even more. This offense is going to ask for movement, timing, combination blocks, and climbing to the second level. Biadasz has to be more than an anchor. He has to help make the run game feel alive, the kind that makes linebackers freeze for half a second. And in the NFL, half a second feels like forever when Herbert is standing behind you. But here is the part that leaves fans split. Barnwell also pointed to the guard situation as the team's worst decision of the offseason. And the concern is fair. Trevor Penning is back. Cole Strange arrived on a 2-year deal, still carrying that former first-round label while trying to settle in. Jake Slaughter came in the second round and could begin his career at guard because Biadasz owns the center spot. Harbaugh has already said the expectation is for Strange to start at right guard, which leaves the left side open for a real training camp fight. So yes, Biadasz makes the center spot better immediately, but the success of this line will not depend on him alone. It will come down to who survives next to him, who develops fast, and who stops being a projection and starts moving bodies. The good news is, Harbaugh lives for this kind of battle. And if there is a coach who can turn a questioned group into something tougher, nastier, and more competitive, it is him. Herbert does not need perfection. He needs a line that stops forcing him into survival mode. Biadasz is the first serious step in that direction. And after talking about protection, every Chargers fan's mind naturally goes to a dangerous place. What if everything finally comes together at the same time? I am not talking about empty May optimism where every roster looks like a contender before the first padded practice. I am talking about a possibility with real foundation. Brad Gagnon from Bleacher Report summed up the Chargers' dream scenario in one sentence. Jim Harbaugh and Mike McDaniel taking Justin Herbert to another level in his age 28 season, the tackles staying healthy, and Los Angeles winning the AFC West for the first time since 2009. Sit with that for a second. AFC West. For the first time since 2009. If you follow this team, that is not just a pretty prediction. That is an old wound getting touched. The Chargers have had talent. They have had a quarterback. They have had games where it felt like they were finally ready to turn the corner. But the division always became a mountain. Kansas City owning the story. Denver coming in strong. Las Vegas trying to rebuild. And Los Angeles, too often, stuck somewhere between potential and frustration. But 2026 feels emotionally different because Herbert is not walking into this hope by himself. He has Mike McDaniel, and that changes the whole conversation. Greg Roman had a vision. He had weight. He had a push for physical identity. But McDaniel brings a different kind of threat. He brings space, speed, geometry, and ways to make a defense wrong before the ball even leaves Herbert's hand. And when you take a quarterback with that arm, that courage, that mobility, and that processing ability, and you put him in a system that can give him cleaner answers, the question stops being whether Herbert is elite. The question becomes, how much was being held back around him? The return of Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt almost feels like adding two premium players without even creating a free agency headline. Slater missed all of 2025 with a patellar tendon injury. Alt played only 6 games because of ankle issues and still made the Pro Bowl. That tells you everything about the level of that kid. Now picture Herbert with both tackles on the field, Biadasz steadying the center, Strange and Slaughter battling to raise the guard play, and Omarion Hampton healthy enough to force defenses to respect the ground game. Herbert already threw for 3,727 yards, 26 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, and completed 66.4% of his passes while dealing with way too much pressure. So no, last season was not an individual failure. It was survival with flashes of greatness. If McDaniel cuts down the chaos, if the line holds up, if Hampton becomes a reliable threat, this offense can change gears fast. The division is still brutal. Denver proved it is not playing around. Kansas City, with Patrick Mahomes coming back from the knee injury, is not going away. The Raiders got better, but that is exactly the point. Nobody is giving the Chargers anything. Los Angeles has to take it, and I want to hear from the fan base. What decides this AFC West race for you? Herbert with McDaniel, or the health of Slater and Alt? Because if both happen together, Los Angeles is not entering the conversation asking for permission. They are kicking the door open. And then, in the middle of all the offensive line talk, the new system, Herbert's ceiling, and the division race, one name pops up and hits a different part of the fan base. Keenan Allen. This is not just a receiver on the market. This is not just a veteran still available. This is living memory. Tight Sunday games. Third down. A route snapping at the perfect time. A defender losing by one little hip fake. The ball arriving exactly where years of trust tell it to go. Joe Ortiz was asked on Up and Adams about a possible return, and his answer opened a crack nobody in Los Angeles missed. He said the team is looking at the roster and letting the young guys grow, but that he has had communication with Keenan's representation. He also made it clear there is a lot of love for Keenan and that the door is not closed. That is the perfect off-season sentence. It promises nothing, but it does not kill the dream either. And that dream has logic, even with the offense trying to get younger. Keenan had a much more useful 2025 season than a lot of people expected. 777 yards and 4 touchdowns in 17 games. He did not need to be massive volume Keenan to matter. He was a trusted piece, a technical presence, an emotional reference point, a player who still understands space like few others. And when a team is trying to make Herbert more comfortable, more efficient, and better protected, a target who knows how to be in the right place still has value. But the decision is not simple, and this is where the heart has to talk to the depth chart. The Chargers want to see Trey Harris take a leap. They want to find out if Brennan Thompson can become a real weapon. They have Ladd McConkey as a core piece, Quentin Johnston trying to lock in consistency, David Njoku arriving to attack the middle of the field, and a coaching staff that seems to want speed, versatility, and development. So bringing Keenan back cannot mean blocking the growth of players who need reps. The role would have to be honest. Maybe WR3, maybe a situational piece, maybe that veteran who steps in when the game gets tight and the defense starts disguising coverage. And honestly, that could be beautiful, because not every return has to be about trying to go back in time. Sometimes the right return is about using history as a tool to win now. Keenan knows Herbert. Herbert knows Keenan. There is communication there that you cannot buy in May. If the price makes sense, if the player accepts a smaller role, and if the young receivers still have room to breathe, I do not see that as cheap nostalgia. I see it as another layer of security for a season where the Chargers cannot afford to waste a single detail. The internal question is brutal. Does Los Angeles need young talent exploding, or a veteran who has already proven he does not blink? Maybe the answer is both. And if Ortiz is keeping that door cracked open, I understand it. Because closing a door with Keenan Allen on the other side never feels easy. At the end of the day, everything points to the same feeling. The Chargers are trying to turn promise into expectation. Tuli has to be treated like a pillar, not a negotiable gamble. Biadasz means protection, command, and respect for Justin Herbert. The dream scenario runs through McDaniel, Slater, Alt, and an AFC West that will not wait for Los Angeles to catch its breath. And Keenan Allen is still there. Part memory, part possibility, still pulling at the fan base. This is where a serious team decides what it wants to be. If you want to follow every signal on this ride, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and roll with us. Bolt up!